started selling out and doing huge business, and that's where Eddie and I really got so close, and that's where I understood what a genius Eddie Graham was. I learned so much from him, but I got to work with Tim Woods, who was great. Mr. Wrestling 2 was phenomenal. Some with Thunderbolt Patterson, and that's also was intriguing me about the black athlete and trying to figure out how to capitalize on working with the black athlete. And Thunderbolt had so much talent, but he carried so many burdens of the things that had happened to him in his life that he was unstable. You never knew what he was going to do.
Right.
And of course, Gary Hart and Bobby Duncan was my tag partner, who was like the Rock of Gibraltar, and Jerry Oates. I mean, we just had a good crew, and that was what a wrestling area it was. And so through all this, it was really great. And then Barnett wanted to come back out of Australia, so they sold him a part of the Georgia thing, and he took over Georgia. And then I went to Florida in '74 and booked Florida for Eddie. And Dusty Rhodes was down there, who I'd had some experience with Dusty already, and that's where I really developed Dusty into being an American Dream.
Right, exactly.
About after the first 2 weeks there, I had to fire his ass.
What happened?
Oh, as usual, Dusty with his ego and his bullshit was going behind my back to Eddie and second guessing everything. So I just fired his fat ass. I said, Eddie, either I'm going to be the booker or else let Dusty book it. Because when I got there, Dusty and Joe LaDuca, Texas Death Match and Canadian Death Matched each other and killed the territory. It was deader than shit. And so we got it going. And so I said, and I called him in and fired his ass. And he said, Bill, what? And I told him. He said, no. And he said, I'll do whatever you say. And I said, no more of this subversive shit. Are you going behind my back?
Right.
And then we went with it, and I mean, we turned him in. And I'm telling you, when he became the American Dream, I'll never forget him doing the interview. We had Paksan Nam and Gary Hart, and the interview brought goose pimples to me. Of course, we had the greatest television commentator maybe in the history. The two best, I think, are Jim Ross and Gordon Solie. And Gordon Solie was at his peak, and Eddie's operation, he let me take total charge of an operation that was phenomenal. And I had phenomenal talent. Jack Briscoe was the world's champion, and Jack and I were friends, and Jack was phenomenal. Buddy Colt. We had Mike Graham was a young Mike Graham, and he had a lot to offer. I had so many guys I could pull in and get their participation.
Right.
Tony Charles was, you'd just love to see a match. To watch Danny Hodge and Tony Charles in a match, you'd pay just to see what they could do. It was so phenomenal. You'd get a standing ovation from the boys. And, of course, Dick Murdoch, good gosh. I mean, you talk about, Eddie Graham came to me one day because I was having trouble because I had like 8 main events on the card in Tampa. And I'm having to figure a main event finish for 8 main events. And I said, Eddie, gosh, I just don't know what to do. I'm stymied. And he said, kid, he said, I've never seen anything like what you got. He says, you've got more talent than we ever had here. And he said, you got guys that we'd have died to have on the main event on the second and third match. He said, what a happy problem to have, trying to how to keep all these guys happy by challenging them in the ring.
Right.
And somehow we did it, and the business was, they were scalping tickets in Miami. We would sell out Tampa on a Tuesday, go to the Bayfront on Saturday, sell it out, and come back to Tampa on the Tuesday, sell it out. It was so hot. We put billboards up around town with Gary Hart and Paksan Nam with a bounty on Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream. I mean, we had everything in the world going, and it was the most educational time. And Eddie Graham used to say to me, why are you down here? I was a high school dropout, and you're a college man. I said, I came to get my PhD. And that's what I thought I got. Eddie Graham taught me never to have your eggs in all in one basket, and we put together package shows. And so the package would draw more than back in the old days, they'd have one main event and a semifinal, and so everything was wrapped up in one main event. And if a guy had a death hold on the office, he may not even have the talent to draw, but he'd rather be the main event. So they really, Eddie Graham, I learned a new dimension under. So every place I was absorbing all this, and when I left Eddie Graham, I didn't need, I knew what to do.
Right.
And then I came back here and I told Leroy, I said, I'll come back with you, but we're going to kick Vern and Fritz out. They haven't contributed a damn thing. And it made them upset, but we finally, I just told them both we were going to retain all dividends and up mine and Leroy's salary, and because we were doing all the work, and if they wanted, and so finally they agreed to sell out. We paid them basically with their own retained earnings.
This is before '78 then, right?
Yeah, '78, I think that's when Leroy and I split. I
right.
just couldn't keep up with his bullshit and his drinking and his rages, And it's the saddest thing in the world. He was so talented. He was such a smart man. I learned, I guess, when you believe in a supreme God like I do now, you realize that he put me in a position where I could learn. Because with Leroy tearing you down every night, you had to be so ready and know where you were going with everything.
Right.
It taught me to always be ready and know where I was going, so I could always re-explain it. So when we broke up, then he filed an embezzlement lawsuit on me in the paper. Came out that they sued me for embezzlement, and I called him. I said, well, I guess I'm going to get your ranch free. And he said, why? I said, Leroy, you dumb shit. First of all, you hired the worst lawyer that could ever be in Tulsa. He's so stupid. And the next thing is you and Dorothy handled all the money. So I said, I never touched the money. You all signed the check. You collected the gate receipts. Matter of fact, I said, I was here a year before Leo and Voss and them showed me how you were stealing off the Tulsa gate. Then another year before, because you said you wouldn't do it anymore, before I realized you're stealing in Little Rock. And so I said, here you put this in the paper. I have not taken one nickel from you. I don't handle the money. All I handle is the talent. So I'm going to get you for slander. And they dropped the lawsuit. So we split. And I took Mississippi and Louisiana, and he took what was up here. And of course, I took Louisiana from, I think the most it ever grossed was $400,000 a year, and I took it to $4 million a year. And we just did business, and then I finally said, what the hell am I not up here? And I called him. I said, I'm coming back home. I said, I'll let you have a way of saving face. I'll buy you out. And so that's what I did. But I said, then you're behind on all the TV stations. You're going to pay them all off, so I have a goodwill with them, with the money I give you.
So this was now the start of Mid-South?
Well, yeah.
Around 78?
Well, Mid-South had already started, but at 78 when I split with him. But then this was when I consolidated back up here.
Right. And I guess in the beginning you brought in the Freebirds and JYD. Who was some of your talent when you first started?
Well, I don't remember the breaks in time as such. The Freebirds, we found them, Gordy and Michael Hayes, and I wanted Gordy. I didn't ever think Michael was worth a shit in the ring.
Right.
But Gordy wouldn't leave Michael. So Michael came and we had him, and Michael was such a phenomenal talker and had such psychology on the mic, but he always wanted to wrestle. He had that pride. Michael has a lot of drive, and I love him to death, but to me, he was never what I needed in the ring. He didn't compliment Gordy in the ring. Gordy was so awesome. But then Gordy had to have Michael. They were codependent. So I'll never forget, Buck Robley was my booker then and was going to trade him to Florida for two guys in Florida. And I said, the hell you are. We're going to find somebody to go with this team, and Michael's going to start just doing the interviewing and manage it. And we got Buddy Roberts, who was perfect. And that team just took off as the Freebirds.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.